So thanks for meeting with us. Did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Darryl Durham, and I'm the founder of what we used to call Anna's Arts for Kids. Now it's called Anna's Place Nola. And so now I'm the Director of Arts and Community Engagement.
Okay, so why did you decide to create Anna's Place?
Well, when I came to New Orleans, I found out about this church because of the murder board, where they listed the names of people who had died after Hurricane Katrina through violent means. And so I wanted to see what that was all about. My backstory is I actually am an artist, and I've been an executive director of the Harlem School of the Arts. And so I'd always been interested in developing programming that worked specifically with kids of color.
Yeah.
And so when I came to New Orleans, immediately identified what the issue was, saw that the schools were not really preparing the kids to deal with, not to become artists necessarily, but to just have those experiences which lead to a full life. And so the program itself was initially founded because the priest and I wanted to interrupt this cycle of violence and poverty that was going on. Now, this was 2009 when we actually did that.
Okay, so how have you seen Anna's Place grow over the years?
Well, I mean, it's actually grown from about 8 kids in the original class to as many as 100 kids during the summer program. And I think that now that we're developing a new building, which is going to be the community center to house the program, we'll be able to triple the number of kids. I think the best growth, though, is actually figuring out what we're doing. Like I said, I am a musician.
Yeah.
And when we started the program, it was actually a weekend arts program because that was my strong point. But then the parents literally came to us and said, "We see what you're doing with the kids, and they need tutoring." So we said, "Okay, well, we'll start with after school tutoring." I know nothing about tutoring.
Yeah.
So luckily we were able to get volunteers from Loyola, from Tulane, from Xavier. We were able to bring in a volunteer education director who worked with us for the first couple of years. So the real growth in the organization is not, in my mind, necessarily being in the number of kids that we've served, which is powerful, but it's actually figuring out what we're doing and coming up with an actual plan that can be replicated by other organizations that want to do this. Because people always say, I want to make change, but I don't know how to do it. Well, if I show you how we did it, you may not have to do it with the arts. You might do it with sports, or you might do it with something else. Because there are lots of good, positive youth development organizations out there. But I think that the formula that we put together is really very solid. And that is, because I know you're about to ask, that's academic enrichment, which is more than just doing the tutoring, but giving experiences in things like STEM and stuff like that. Arts and culture, which is actually teaching kids not only about singing and notes on a keyboard, but also to take them to the opera and let them see beauty in the world. Health and wellness, so we get inside their head at an early age and we teach them about philosophy. We teach them to think about making decisions. We teach them what to put in their bodies. They live in a great city, don't get me wrong, but we don't always eat well.
Yeah.
Which is okay, but there's always a balance and recreation, how to take care of yourself. And then I think the most important thing is we show them that if you pay attention to these things, if you use the correct behaviors, because a lot of times the kids come to us with behaviors that aren't very positive, and you develop good patterns, good habits and behaviors. If you just do those things, then they will influence your academic achievement, they will influence your cultural awareness, your social development, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what we're teaching them. We're teaching them what any middle-class parent would do with their child.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up and my mother made us take ballet. I was good though. Excuse me. I was the best out of my 3 brothers. I ended up being a musician though.
Yeah.
But just because we also had piano lessons. She knew the importance of doing stuff like that. Our parents, are overwhelmed with trying to survive, trying to put food on the table, put clothes on the kids' back. And so this stuff either wasn't done for them or they just your brain can only handle so much. So we really do step in as sort of a surrogate parent, which is what I love about the program, which makes it easily replicable because what we're doing, anybody can do.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
not. So how have, like, I know the traumatic community has changed over the years. How has that, like, affected the program, and, like, how have y'all, like, adapted?
Well, the original 8, we used to walk and pick up. A couple of them went to church here, so the parents dropped them off. But literally, all these kids lived within a 3-block radius of the church. And over the years, there was a point where there's pictures of me with like 15 kids following us, going back and forth from the church to the program. As the community began to gentrify, as the community began to change, we went out and bought a 5-passenger van, and then that turned into a 7-passenger van because more and more kids were being displaced to Central City, the East, the Lower Ninth Ward, to the point now where we have a 14-passenger van. And you know, for us, that continuity of care is what really helps the kids overcome the challenges that they're dealing with. So, despite the fact that the community has changed, and you know, the change is interesting because I remember going to a meeting with these short-term rental people, and one woman who represented an organization was saying, well, you know, it used to be nothing but drug dealers and prostitutes and she didn't not walk in the street. She didn't see the grandmothers sitting on the porches. She didn't see the families. She didn't see the community. She just saw what you see in the periphery as you drive through. You see a couple of guys standing in the corner doing drug deals, but the drug dealers, it uses everybody know. So that's still a community, you know. But she didn't see the grandmas, and she didn't see the little kids, and she didn't see the real community. And so these people had no problems coming in and taking that community away, unfortunately. But we had to create a community, keep that community here. And so the biggest change is we've had to invest in transportation, which costs us about $30,000 a year. I mean, it's just, but we have to, you know, we found that if we keep, because again, we only work with the kids 20 hours a week. So it takes us about 2 years to develop their trust. And then after we develop their trust, we're able to take them to wherever they want to go because they believe in themselves and believe, you know, that we can do it. But that takes a certain period of time, and so you've got to stay engaged. So those 20 hours over 4 days, I guess it's a lot in many ways, but it doesn't seem like a lot all the time. Yeah. That's the biggest change.
Last question. So what do you see, like, what is your hope for Anna's Place, like, in the future, or how do you see it developing into, like, a bigger organization?
Well, I mentioned the mansion. It was an old Creole mansion that we purchased out of Block 1846, which ironically was the same year the church was established. But we will be able to house a program that can house up to 150 kids. We've been offered another facility in the city. I'm not going to say where. Well, Central City. I'm not going to say who. Which is exciting because these people have looked at our program and they said, okay, we see what you guys are doing. We got an abandoned building. Can you guys come in and do that program? But more importantly, what I really see, what I hope for the future is that, like I said earlier, people will say, I can replicate that program. I can do that. I know a church that'll give us space. I know 8 to 10 to 12 kids who could use the help. By the way, we never advertised in this program. The program grew because parents and kids talked to their friends. So we never had to put money in. I guess that's the flip side of having to deal with transportation. We never had to pay for public relations and marketing. But we never were ever in a situation where we had a shortage of kids. But I think, for the future, if people can look at what we're doing, if they really want to make a difference, because you can't do it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of years. We've been at this for 12 years. Like I said, we figured it out. We made it easy on you. But you still got to be dedicated to doing it because it's not easy work. And luckily for us, we're now moving into the second generation of a lot of kids. So I think that once you move to that next generation, we have new leadership. So once you start doing that, you become a mature organization and you begin to exhibit staying power, and you begin to realize that the mission, the procedures, all that stuff that you've established is actually working. So I think we're in a position right now where we're going to be in great shape for the future. So I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome.
Pretty proud.
Thank you so much for meeting with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really enjoyed it. Hope I didn't talk too much.
No,